Hello everyone, this is Sarah from Crafting and Relaxing, and today I've put together a short video and I want to show you a little bit more about the new Spectrum Noir markers that I've purchased. I found a technique that I like with these markers, and what I'm doing is I'm going to stamp on vellum and then heat emboss it, and I'll color the back. And in the meantime, while I'm prepping this, I'll just tell you a little bit about the markers and what I've found so far. So the Spectrum Noirs are, I think, not necessarily a Copic type, but they are an alcohol marker. They cost significantly less. They have a lot of ink and they blend well. Quite frankly, they're probably a little beyond my skill level, and I don't have the right paper for them, so they bleed a little bit. So by coloring on vellum on the back of it, it takes advantage of the high color content in these markers and how much ink is in them, and doesn't put the requirement on me as a rookie to figure out how to blend them and control them. So it was just something I thought I'd try. Also, there's a lot of pink in this set, and so for Mother's Day cards, not a bad idea. So that's where I'm headed in this video. And right now I've taken Versamark and stamped flowers on the vellum and used gold powder. And I don't have very much gold powder, so that's why it was a bit of work. And you'll notice that I messed up one of those large flowers in the middle. That's no problem. I'm going to heat emboss it anyway, just so that I don't have loose powder moving around on the page. And if you watch, this is a pretty good angle, and you'll be able to see when it starts to switch from just powder to a nice sheen where it's melting. And there it goes, it's starting to melt. And this heat gun is pretty old, but you can see that it works just fine. And once it's all melted on the flower, I just move on. If you don't melt the whole area, then you'll have loose powder on it when you set it down and start working with it. So I'm just heat embossing all of them. And if you're not familiar with heat embossing, I have other videos on it that are very detailed, so you could go back and watch. And there we go, and it cools quickly. So I'm flipping it over and I'm coloring on the back side. This is a great technique for somebody who is a fairly lazy colorer like me. And keep in mind, I have sped up this video, but this whole thing probably only took me a little bit more than 10 minutes when I did it. So I'm just taking different pinks and coloring on the back, and then I'll flip it over to see what it looks like and show you also. You can also do this with colored pencils. You could do it with different types of markers. Some may work better on vellum, like the alcohol markers. Other markers might not dry as well. Vellum, if you're not familiar with it, it's a translucent paper that is sold in scrapbooking and paper craft stores. It's making a big comeback again, so you should be able to get it just about anywhere. If you're not sure, just ask, and it's Vellum, Vellum, if you wanted to buy some online. So I'm just coloring the back of it, and no particular order necessarily, just making sure that I don't leave lines, because while it is an alcohol marker, so it blends nicely and typically doesn't leave lines, I found that on the vellum, because it's not soaking in, it's like a wax paper, it was a little more streaky than it would be normally. And there you go, you can see when you flip it over, the color softened a little, but it's still very nice. Nice and bright. And I'll color a couple different flowers. I'm not going to color every one of them while you're watching, because you get the idea. But you can see how fun it is to have that gold shimmer with pink. It's nice this technique works with black, it works with white, it would work with anything, but I really like the pink and gold for Mother's Day. So I thought that would be nice, and I had a few friends that decided I should make quite a few Mother's Day cards, so I was trying to come up with a couple of different creative and fairly easy ideas. The hardest part of this is this stamp set doesn't have a die cut, so I will have to fussy cut these out for the idea that I was going to do. And I'll post this finished card on Instagram probably before Mother's Day, so it'll be a pretty quick turnaround to get this finished up. So you can see just layering them up, and I'm trying to not use the same exact pink marker as my base on each one, so that when I put them together on a card, they have some variety like nature. I'm not trying to color them exactly the same. I'm also experimenting because I haven't used these markers very much. And keep in mind that markers, different types of markers have different pros and cons. Alcohol markers are not the kind of markers that you can take and color on your stamp and then stamp with it. If I take that pink marker and I color on my stamp, all it's going to do is make my stamp pink. So for that you need dye-based, water-based markers. So keep that in mind, and I'll be sure that when I'm showing markers and different techniques, I remind you about that. You don't need different kinds of markers. It's just alcohol markers are very popular, and I'm curious about them. And they do make it much easier to blend, and they don't leave lines like traditional markers do. So that's why I'm interested in them. So there you can see they're gorgeous. One's brighter than the rest, and I'm just trying to find something a little darker to add some more variation. And touching those up a bit, adding a little more interest. So you could do these in it. If I had a different marker set, I might have done them each one a different color, something like that. But I remembered that when I opened this set, there was a lot of pink in it, if you recall. So it seemed like a good project to do this with. So when I'm done, I'll flip it over and show you, and then I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut those out after this video and assemble them into a card and maybe make a few more. I don't have a lot of gold powder, you might have noticed when I was embossing. So if I do other ones, I might need to use different colors or something. Change my color scheme a little. And I have a couple other techniques that I wanted to try that don't even involve these markers, so I might work on something else and integrate it into Mother's Day cards. So I hope that everyone is having a great week and taking some time out for crafting and relaxing, and don't ever let your crafts be stressful. Make them joyous and relaxing and something that you like to do and you carve out a little bit of time for. So just like coloring, I don't like to do a lot of detailed coloring, so I'm just having fun with it. And the great thing about heat embossing on one side is if you're messy, if you went a little outside of the lines, if you missed a spot a little bit, it doesn't show because the heat embossing just looks gorgeous when you flip it over. It's also kind of nice to use heat embossing on the front side with ink, and it pools in it and contains it. So there we go. You can see I'm just finishing it up. Thank you so much for watching this video, and be sure to subscribe to Crafting and Relaxing and click the bell to get notified when I post new videos. Have a great day. Bye-bye.